Welcome to the OmniSite tutorial for configuring runtime calculations with an XR-50. Begin by using your intelligent key to disable your XR-50. Allow enough time for the XR-50 to complete its communication sequence before proceeding to turn off your panel. Now that your panel is safely powered down, open the interior door. Unplug the battery from the XR-50 to ensure that it is completely powered off. Now identify the circuit that is providing power to your pumps. In our demonstration panel, we have two variable frequency drives that are providing 3-phase power to our two 3-phase pumps. Once you have identified the voltage carrying leads for your pumps, find a suitable place in your panel to mount your OmniSite current switches. You will need one current switch for each pump that you plan to monitor. The current switch is designed to clasp around a single hot wire from each pump. Select a suitable hot wire and place the current switch around it. Make sure the current switch is completely closed and firmly latched. Now snap the current switch into its base, which you previously mounted in your panel. You will now repeat the process with your second current switch. Open the switch, select a suitable hot wire from your second pump, and make sure it passes through the center of the switch. Then make sure to firmly close the switch. Once closed, install the switch on its base in the back of your panel. You are now ready to wire your pump runtime digital inputs from your XR-50. Because your current switches are unpowered, you will need to include the XR-50's external 12-volt power supply into your monitoring circuit. Start by landing a wire into one of the positive terminals for the external 12-volt supply. Make sure this wire has enough length to reach to the current switches. Now land a second wire on one of the terminals for digital input 8, which corresponds to the runtime input for pump 1. It is a good idea to use different colored wires in order to maintain a clear organizational scheme. Now land a third wire, also a different color, on digital input 9, which is the corresponding runtime input for pump 2. It is also a good idea to land all three of these wires on the same terminal block to simplify the layout of your wiring. You will now need to land several jumper wires to provide a path for the current to flow back from your device into the negative terminal of the 12-volt power supply. Land your first jumper wire in the negative terminal of the opposite terminal block from your previous wiring. Place the other end of this jumper into the unoccupied terminal for digital input 9. Your next jumper will then connect digital input 9 to digital input 8. This provides a common negative contact for both digital inputs. Make sure to check that your wires are firmly mounted in the terminal block and will not accidentally pull free. You are now ready to land these wires on your installed current switches. Using the wire from the positive 12-volt terminal, along with a pre-made jumper wire, you will provide positive 12-volt power to both of your current switches. Land these wires together in either of the terminals on one of your current switches. Make sure to thoroughly tighten the set screw to ensure that no wires come loose during operation. Verify that the wires are not loose. Then land the other end of your pre-made jumper wire on the same terminal of the other current switch. Now you will place the lead from digital input 8, or pump 1, into the current switch that is monitoring one of the hot wires that supply pump 1. Once again, it is a good idea to verify that your wires are snug. Now, take your third wire, which you wired into digital input 9, or pump 2, and wire it to the unoccupied terminal of the current switch, which is monitoring one of the hot wires that supplies pump 2. Once you have tightened this lead and verified that it is snug, your wiring is complete. Make sure to plug in the backup battery for the XR-50 before closing your panel and powering it back on. Now, with your XR-50 disabled, go to the main menu and press Enter. Use the down arrow button to navigate to Enter Setup and press Enter again. In this menu, use the down arrow to navigate down to Pump GPM Calcs. On this page, you will input a maximum GPM value for each of your pumps. Press Enter to edit the value, then use the arrow keys to select an appropriate value. If you are only monitoring 2 pumps, a value does not need to be specified for pump 3. Next, select Shape and specify the shape of your wet well. The options are rectangle or cylinder. Now, specify the decimal position you would like to use when specifying the dimensions of your well. I have selected the hundredths position. You will now enter the value in feet that represents the distance between your stop and your lead set points in your pump control scheme. You may need to measure between your stop and lead floats, or get this value from your pump controller. Next, you will specify the dimensions of your well. In a rectangular well, you will specify the width and the length. In a cylindrical well, you will specify the diameter. These values may be obtained by measuring the top of your well or from the structural plans for your lift station. Using these values, the XR-50 calculates the lead volume of your lift station, which is the volume pumped during a normal pump cycle. With these settings complete, click the exit key until you've returned to the main menu. Now test your new installation by placing one of your pumps in hand. Notice that the corresponding digital input lights up. Additionally, in the main menu of the XR-50, you may navigate to View Inputs, then use the down arrow to navigate to Pump 1, where the status of the pump is displayed. You can repeat this process for Pump 2 to verify that your second current switch is working properly. Here, digital input 9 should be lit, and Pump 2 in the same menu should indicate On. Once the pump is off, the digital input indicator should turn off, and the menu should indicate off as well. You may now enable your XR-50 to return it to normal service. Now that you've installed your digital current switches, in GuardDog you can visit the Analyzer tab and click Pump Calculations to view the data that your XR-50 is collecting. On this page, you can view statistics for the specified date range, along with data collected on individual days. This data includes drawdown times, cycles, run times, GPMs, and effluent. Using the Charts feature, you can see these values charted over time. Here, you can see a graph of the GPM values from our demonstration panel. Additionally, under the Analyzer tab, the Influent page will present your influent data over the same specified date range. Each day is broken into 12 individual 2-hour increments. Each increment displays the average GPM flowing into your station during that time. You will also find the Graphs feature on this page. For more information, visit us at omnisite.com or contact our technical support team.